I'm aware I'm under absolutely no obligation to share these really personal and intimate stories with anyone, let alone all of the internet. However, after I discovered what, or rediscovered what my mission with the channel was, I realized that the best way that I can help people really is just being as open and honest and genuine as I can, especially with some very sensitive shit that not a lot of people like to talk about. And if it wasn't for this very pivotal experience that I went through, I wouldn't be the same person that I am today. Anyway, let's get right into my story. After the relationship with my daughter's mother ended, after I finished sleeping all of my days away, I realized that the best thing for me was going to be to learn how to pick up girls. I believed that if I was more confident with women, then I'd be able to attract a healthy girlfriend for once, and all of my loneliness problems would be solved. So, at the age of 21, I decided to start an online blog, which surprisingly amassed 4,000 followers, which was all about my adventures learning how to pick up women. And the entire thing was bullshit. I even used a fake name. I mean, my heart was in the right place, at least during the beginning, but I never got good at meeting girls. About the only thing that I did get good at was using online dating websites. Hilariously, during this time, I was asked to be a guest on this very weird men's show. Wow, just look at that terrible haircut. I'd argue that being bald is better than that haircut. Anyway, by the time I reached 23 years old, I was at an all-time low. I was still severely depressed. Thanks to my alcohol consumption, I had fucked up several potential relationships with some really amazing girls. I didn't have a job, I lived in my parents' basement, and that is when I met Alyssa. Alyssa was very different from a lot of the other girls I was talking to online. She was not only really into me really fast, which I mean is a red flag, but when you're desperate, that's great. But also, after we met, she looked like her pictures, which was a bonus. In my mind, things were finally going better for me. I was less miserable about my life. I finally felt happy. Alyssa made me happy. I really enjoyed her company. But little did I know, Alyssa was an escort, which is really just a fancy way of saying a prostitute. She was also what she called a recovering crackhead. Of course, I didn't find any of this information out until we had already been dating for 5 or 6 months. This is when I say thank God for condoms. She told me that she loved me and she didn't expect me to stay. She said if I did stay with her, then I was worth stopping for. She wasn't going to be a prostitute any longer. I knew, of course, that I was supposed to have more self-respect than to stay. I knew I was supposed to value me more than to continue a relationship with someone who had technically been sleeping with other people from the get-go. So we tried to make things work, and even though I really wanted to trust her, I just couldn't. So I decided to do some detective work, and sure enough, I found out that she was still occasionally escorting. Now, I wasn't about to just let her get away with this. Oh no. The next best thing besides leaving her, which is the healthy thing, in my mind was to, hurt her back. So I did. Her best friend would often come over, we'd all get drunk together. Alyssa would always pass out first, which for some reason worked out great for what we like to do. And then me and her best friend would proceed to sleep together. And this went on for a while. I'd say that out of the almost 2 years I dated Alyssa, I was cheating on her with her best friend for maybe almost half of it. This probably sounds so wrong, but at the time I felt forced to cheat on her. I felt like in relationships things had to be fair. So I thought that if I did enough fucked up shit, it would, even off with the fucked up shit she had already done, and eventually all that fucked up shit would just cancel each other out, and we'd be like at an even ground. Alyssa did find out eventually, but she just never really seemed to care as much as I thought she would. In the end, she broke up with me because of money. This was pretty much all I knew, guys. This was what relationships were to me. Just me being used and abused, and I guess using and abusing other people back. I thought this was just how humans treated each other. So after we broke up, I moved back to my parents' house, I lost my job, and of course I was depressed again. A couple weeks after I finally accepted that we were never going to be together again, I had an epiphany. It wasn't anything really magical, it was more like just this thought that struck me that I couldn't shake. I realized that I needed to learn how to be 100% happy just the way I was, just alone, before I'd ever be happy in a relationship or make someone else happy. in a relationship. And I know that sounds terribly cliche, but it's fucking true. I also realized that the first thing I needed to face was my fear of rejection, because it was and had always been controlling my life. Now, just to be clear, so that there's not mixed information across multiple videos, in this video, when I'm talking about beating my fear of rejection, it's pretty much the same thing as in my social anxiety video when I talked about going out and curing my social anxiety. A fear of rejection is part of having social anxiety, so it all ties in. It's not like I'm talking about two different things. If I wasn't afraid of rejection, I wouldn't have stayed with Alyssa, because I wouldn't have felt like it would have taken, forever until I'd meet someone new. We like to call this the scarcity mindset. Most people stay in relationships that are unhealthy, that they know aren't good for them, because of being in scarcity. They just feel like they have no other options. And back then, I had the self-confidence of a paper plate. But I knew that the best way for me to get over my fear of rejection was to face it head on. And that's what I did. I went out and I talked to girls, which was absolutely horrifying. It was terrifying in the beginning. I was scared shitless. But at the same time, I felt like I had no choice. And this feeling of having no choice was really my saving grace, because I realized that if I didn't face this fear now and fix myself, I was going to be stuck in the same pattern of relationships, of dating similar people, unhealthy people, for the rest of my life. A lot of people always complain that they keep meeting the same guys or the same girls, and it's because that's what they're comfortable with. That's what they're attracting, because it's deep down, it's actually what they want. By the 8th month of going out at least 4 times every week, something miraculous happened. I stopped giving a fuck. I didn't give a shit if the girls I was talking to were interested in me. I stopped caring if they were judging me. I stopped caring about the outcome of my interactions. I no longer cared if I was going to get their number. I didn't care if I was going to make out with them at the bar. Instead, I began to care about truly getting to know the people I was talking to. I wanted to leave everybody that I talked to better than before I had got there. That was when things clicked. That's when I finally started getting dates, which was crazy because I didn't physically change. My looks didn't change. I was still bald. I was still short. I still pretty much dressed the same. But that didn't matter, because what did change and what did matter was my attitude. It was the energy that I was giving off. It was how people were feeling when they were around me. And precisely that, is what made the difference between girls just giving me their phone number out of pity and never texting back, to finally experiencing relationships with healthy women. If it wasn't for all the bullshit, all the ridiculous pain that I thought was unnecessary that I experienced when dating girls like Alyssa, I would have never been forced to finally face and crush my fears of rejection. I would have never, ever met my girlfriend. She was just a girl that I approached midday at a Starbucks. It's one of those moments where that one small, almost at the time meaningless decision happened to just change the entire course of your life. I mean, imagine if I never got out of my seat and, took the risk of approaching her that day. I would have never gone to New Zealand. I would have never smoked DMT. I more than likely would have never started these channels. But most important of all, my son wouldn't even exist. So at the end of the day, I can't say that I regret being an alcoholic. I can't say that I regret dating an escort. I can't say that I'm upset or regret being cheated on or cheating on someone, because it was thanks to all of those things that I became the person who is right here talking to you in front of this camera. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, be sure you subscribe to my channel for more content like this. If you liked it, also hit that thumbs up button, leave this video a like. I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who's supporting me on Patreon right now. It's thanks to you guys that I'm able to make content like this. If you support my message and you want to get behind, if you want to be a part of my channel, consider joining our Patreon family. You can find the link to it somewhere over here. Before I ramble on forever, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.